Welcome back to Heal, Healing, Empowering, Accepting, and Living, a podcast sponsored by Change by Fire. We are here to help you face life post injury and trauma and really find your thrive again. My name is Lori Janik. I'm a holistic trauma therapist and have been a burn survivor advocate for about 15 years now. And this is.
I'm Jen Severance, and I am one of the burn survivors that Lori has so wonderfully helped in the past many years that I've been involved in the burn community.
Aww. There's our first heart moment.
Aww. So, welcome. This is season 6. So, we finished off last season. We were talking about fears. That was a lot of fun. We talked about wide lens living, noticing how our fears root in our tissues and can place us in sort of body trance of depletion, moving to living with perspective and pulling our bodies out of the fear trance by noticing, naming, moving, feeling, sharing, and trusting with others. And don't forget the present fear open heart technique that Lori walked us through last time. Have you created any fear to love mantras yet? We would love to hear about them. And today we are excited to embark into a new season of Heal. Woohoo! Season 6 will be all about finding identity. Big topic. I'm so excited. Are you excited?
Definitely.
So, are you ready to embark on the journey toward further discovering you? Let's get healing.
And today's word of the day is identity. I've decided that WOD is now going to stand for word of the day, not workout of the day. So there's that. Pretty big word. Identity starts with I, and it also means I too. Haha. But what do you think of when you hear that word? I know for me, what comes up, it's identity is like how I see me. It's how I define me. It's that sense of kind of what matters, that sense of self. What do you think of with identity, Jen?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I've been thinking about this since we decided this was going to be the topic, and it's enormous. Like, we could spend 12 episodes talking about identity, but yeah, to like simmer it down, it's kind of, what do you stand for?
Ooh, I
You
like that
know?
one.
It's something I've been thinking about for the last several years since my burn, really. So we'll get, of course, deeper into this as we move through this season. But yeah, I mean, who are you? What do you stand for? What are you about? It's a lot. It's a big topic.
That actually kind of like hits almost exactly on the definition, because even in looking up various definitions of identity and what really does that word mean, there's so many different, but boiled down and put simply, identity is really that combination of your physical and your behavioral traits that really defines who you are. So can you ever remember not having an identity? Identity starts when we're really, 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 really small. Early childhood, infancy. You start to comprehend your sense of self, your separateness from parent, from others around you, your ability to affect, to explore, to practice with your personality. Your identity is also what makes you a unique individual in this world and can give you a sense of belonging with others with similar identities. So it holds a variety of little bit of purposes there.
Wow. Yeah. There's a lot. How often have you struggled with your identity? Probably a lot. I feel like
I'm raising my hand here.
Constantly evolving. Ever ask the question, who am I?
Mm.
I mean, really, who am I? The answer can be really complex.
Mhm.
Um, your identity includes the relationships you cultivate, like you said, your role as child, parent, friend, grandparent, sibling,
Mhm.
girlfriend, boyfriend, your external makeup, like what do people just see?
Mhm.
Your height, your weight, your culture, and even reaching as far as your beliefs and your morals, your values, and your political opinions too. That's a big thing right now. And your identity guides your choices you make each and every day,
Mhm.
right? Like, I'm sure a lot of that goes with you in your life. I feel like your sweet kindness has led you to what you do in life, right?
Definitely,
Like,
I would say, like, for me, some big factors of my identity are I do really value a sense of kindness and kindness
mm-hmm.
provided to myself and to others around me. And that does
Yep.
lead with, what organizations I work with, where I volunteer for, what I
Yeah.
do. And same thing as that sense of authenticity and realness. That's hugely important to me. And I like to surround myself with people who are real and authentic. Hence why Jen and I get along so well and help support people in building that factor.
Yeah. A life of service you lead, and that's awesome.
Well, I think in part which because what you just mentioned, just like that identity and that struggle, we all have struggled with our identity
Mm-hmm.
at some point, place, or space in life. That's a natural thing that happens. That is normal for you to realize that, okay, hey, my identity shifted or
Mm-hmm.
changed or is constantly shifting or changing, which it does because you're growing and evolving as a human being every
Yes.
day. But when you don't seem to match what you want or what you wanted or hope for, or maybe don't match kind of those factors of others that you aligned with before,
Mm-hmm.
that can really create a bit of an internal struggle. And this is something that often happens in life. As you mentioned, you're around your burn injury, around your trauma,
Mm-hmm.
around life transitions when we move from childhood to teenage to adulthood, our identity shifts and changes. And when that happens internally, what might be some things that could happen? You might shy away from others, you might
Mm-hmm.
isolate, you might feel a sense of disappointment in yourself or in others and how things turned out. You might end up just your self esteem takes a bit of a hit. You think
Mm-hmm.
less of yourself. You may be increasing that fear capacity that, oh my gosh, things are changing and I can't handle this. I used to perceive myself like this and now it's this. So we go into that fear trance that we've talked about previously. And there's three big parts of identity work if we want to kind of get to the nitty gritty of how do we really define ourselves? What
Mm-hmm.
really makes us us? So discovering and developing your sense of potential. What is that potential that I have that I can offer to myself, to this world? Choosing a purpose for yourself in life. What do I want to kind of latch onto? What's my purpose in kind of living and being and providing forward? And then how can I use both those together? Where are those opportunities to use both my purpose and my potential together? And all of this, like we've talked about with your identity, it can be shaped by your parents, your peers, adolescence, young adulthood, future exploration. We really want to, with our identity work, nurture values and make choices that align with our identity, with some of our true self aspects. But sometimes how we perceive ourselves may differ from, or may start to differ from, the culture around us, our family, and we get that misalignment. And that can happen just with development, but also around tragedies, traumas, transitions. And that creates a big challenge that can prevent us maybe from pursuing that use of our potential, that finding of our purpose. That's what creates that big identity crisis that can happen for many individuals. And it's not just a one time thing
Oh,
necessarily
no,
in
it's
life
not.
either. So, when a big injury or trauma happens, how might you think that impacts your identity? Jen, I mean, you can speak on this. I cannot speak on this with regards to this realm,
Yes.
but what did you notice for you, like when your burn injury occurred and all the processes of healing? Like, how did that affect how you see you?
Yeah. This is a topic that comes up a lot with um, around, having a burn injury. And it's interesting you were talking about it's really in these not cataclysmic, but sort of big things happen in your life, and that's when change is really initiated.
Mm.
It's often really uncomfortable. Something uncomfortable happens, a breakup, somebody's death, um, a burn injury. And I've often said for me, my burn injury happened at a really interesting time when I was already kind of going through this sort of a metamorphosis and really
Mm.
looking at my identity because I was just coming out of a relationship. And so it couldn't have been a better time for a burn injury, like there's a good time. But
I'm glad that you clarified that.
right?
There is no good time,
I there's no good
but
time.
you were already shifting
I
and
was
having a
already
bit of a
yeah, I
shift.
was already like mid, metamorphosis, like a butterfly coming out and this happened. And so I already had a really good handle on how I felt about myself or
Mm.
who I thought I was. And that was coming from a place of kindness,
Mm.
treating others with kindness, and generally just kind of choosing happiness as sort of who I was. And so when this happened, it was very scary, but I looked at it as an opportunity to help others to see themselves in a positive light,
Mm.
regardless of their physical outward appearance, and just kind of go through my healing in that way, sort of taking what I already knew, which was uh, just this sort of being happy. Just be happy, choose happiness as much as you
So
can.
you aligned your potential, which for you is kind of finding and gleaning in those pieces of happiness in life,
Hmm.
to your purpose. I'm going to help show and model for others how to find and
Yeah.
seek that happy in the midst of the
Yeah.
obstacles we face.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
Like, instead of looking at the burn injury as this, "Oh my god, I have to completely rebuild who I am, and I don't look like me anymore, and my skin is different, and I'm so insecure." I took that almost like, "Well, this is something that everyone can speak to,"
Mm.
with how much social media and how much we feel like everyone's looking at us and judging us, and that is really a much bigger thing in our lives now with
Oh,
technology.
100%.
100%. It doesn't matter if you're a burn survivor or just anybody walking down the street. I feel like we have this feeling of people are looking at us, and it's so
Hmm.
important to feel strong and comfortable in who you are. And part of that is figuring out who are you.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Oh man. So yeah, when a burn injury happens, you are often sidelined for a
Hmm.
while. Like outside of the spiritual, "Oh, who am I?" You have things, all the physical aspects of life. You might not be able to go to work or
Hmm.
school for a while. Um, you're taking time off for the hospital, for either you're staying there or when you're done with the hospital, you have clinic
Hmm.
follow-ups, further therapies going on. Like it's a
Hmm.
big change in in the way you're living your life.
There's a lot of extra
Oh
tasks
my
and
God, there's a
roles
lot
and
of extra
support needs.
tasks.
And it's
Yep,
like you add all this extra to do list on
there's a
top of
lot of
your already.
extra. You've got pain management. It's a difficult thing. Pain was a big thing with how that really adds to your identity a
Yeah.
little bit too, because you're going through life in this severe amount of pain. People are often like, "Oh my God, I feel so bad for you." But the funny thing is, as a burn survivor or anyone dealing with chronic pain, um, it kind of becomes a little like white noise.
Mm.
You really strengthen through this process of coming through as a burn survivor because I don't know, pain just becomes the secondary thing outside of your identity, which is really, I love this topic of identity
Mhm.
because we don't want to go through life like, I'm a burn survivor. I'm in pain all the time.
Mhm.
That's just something that might be a little bit of a part
Mm.
of you
I'm
going
a burn
forward.
survivor, and these are
Yes,
all the
these are all
other
the other things
additional
about
aspects
me.
of me.
And I'm in pain, but that's not who I'm about.
Mhm.
So, it's a difficult thing. Y- Wherever you're injured, you're going to look a little different than before.
Mhm.
The color of your skin, the texture, the mobility, you might be walking differently. Um, where were you burned? Head, toe, a lot of people have hidden burn injuries, which a lot of time is me where I'm wearing pants. And
Mhm.
sometimes I'll park in a handicap space. I have bad days with mobility, with pain, the way that my injury has affected certain parts of my body and how long I can last on my feet. And so I'll get out of a car in the handicap space and be like, oh my God, are people going to judge me? Because they can't see
Mm.
what's wrong with me? So there's a lot of different things that affect how you feel like people are looking at you. And that's all, related to your identity. It's like you have changed into a different you, and it
Hmm.
might feel like or seem, how do you navigate the changes and learn to see and feel into this new version of you after your accident? What was happening before?
Mhm.
What's happening while you're healing? And then as you kind of graduate out of that, the biggest part of your healing, who are you now? It's interesting to really take a look at that.
Was that whole like getting to know yourself again and finding the
Yeah.
parts of you that are still there?
Yep.
Because those core, those inner parts of you outside of the physical aspects,
Hmm.
those are lasting, those remain, and those may have shifted and changes and changed in importance and in priority.
Yep.
And then getting to know and become familiar with the new skin that you're living in.
Literally and figuratively, right? Really.
And I think something like when it feels like our identity has shifted from that space of what we know when we've been through an injury, a trauma, a big life event that, okay, like we physically look and are operating different.
Yeah.
A helpful guide to kind of realign that identity work can be something called authenticity. Authenticity is another one of my favorite words. I have a lot of favorite words. Many of you may have already recognized that of yet. So, authenticity is that need to be true to yourself. It's that sense
Mhm.
of realness in life, that true to who, how, what we are. And when we follow our authenticity, that inner realness drive, that helps us and can help us break out of that sense of lost identity or shifted or broken identity that we might go to. Authenticity can help us find our whole self, our whole identity again post injury. And this is our true self. Our true self is what's in here
Uh-huh.
versus what's out here. So if we think about our true self, far beyond the physical exterior, our true self is not the social media message of how
Mm.
we should be or what we should look like. It is not the common societal standards or even like the cultural standards or any other standards which you live by. Your true self is what's in here and how you see you. And that's what really allows us to connect to that uninjured part of ourself, that part that still is intact and that carries our values, that carries our purpose, that carries our fight. So, how might we access that? Lots of self awareness work, becoming aware of what's going on in here, what's going on in here. Lots of mindfulness of what you're walking through, what you're
Mm.
going through with regards to your healing and recovery.
Yep.
And a lot of learning of like self expression, how to communicate and relay what's going on, what you're needing with clarity. And these are things that we're going to, grow our learning and expand on in future episodes. And we've already done a bit of work in our past episodes as well,
Yeah.
too. So, some things to think on. How do you see you right now post injury? How much of what are we talking about today aligns with you? Are you struggling with the changes that are happening in your body, in your life? Maybe you're feeling a little trapped in who you were, how you saw yourself, how you are now. Maybe you're a little bit fearful about, what might the future hold? I'm barely getting by today. So we want to start by just observing and noticing these responses within yourself, building an awareness of what you notice. Are certain emotions coming up for me? Are there certain sensations in my body surrounding what I'm walking through or how I'm walking through? Start opening up a dialogue with yourself. Now, this does not mean put on a multiple personalities. There's a value in talking to you. This is building some of that inner self talk. Many of us carry a core of inner negative self talk, but
Mhm.
there's a value to you speaking truth to you. And in this inner self talk dialogue, this is you talking to maybe that former, more external you with that authentic core self you're still carrying and allowing yourself to lean into kind of the feelings, maybe the where things are at on both sides, you can feel and move between what is or what was and what is now. And you can then mindfully move into a little bit of self love.
Mm.
Love is such the ultimate aspect of hope and healing in life. And that's a hard word for many, but love has the capacity to heal so much and so many of our wounds.
Hmm. Yes, indeed. And it takes both loving yourself and having compassion for others to help develop a sense of authenticity.
Hmm.
The latter is usually fairly easy for many. So,
You mean
so
it's easier to love other people than it is
what?
yourself? What?
What? You know what's funny? Little side thing. When I was growing up and talking to my dad, who was wonderful, and we'd be talking about dating others, and he would always say, "You can't love other people until you love yourself." And I always loved that.
There's a lot of truth to that because
Yeah.
maybe you could, but can you love others fully? You
Yeah.
can't. You
Mm-mm.
have to embrace that love of you in order to have really those full aspects of I know what kindness feels like. I
Yeah.
know what love feels like, what truth feels like. So only
Mhm.
then can I fully give it.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
And if you don't really love yourself, are you presenting the real you to others? Are you bringing
Ooh,
out something like, "Oh, I don't really love myself. I'm gonna put this
I'm going to
mask
give you this
on."
facade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Whew.
So, anyway, that was my little sidebar. But, yeah, so on that, we are going to work on that first one. So having, love and compassion for yourself and and a little later in this episode, we're gonna have a takeaway skill. So, especially as loving yourself can be so difficult when your identity has changed in
Oh,
some way.
100%. I think
Yeah.
those are the times when we go through life challenges and we feel like we have a bit of a loss, which this would be
Mhm.
this
Absolutely.
situation.
100%.
In the midst of a loss, sometimes the gifting back of love or even giving forward to love can be
Mhm.
one of the hardest skills to harness.
Absolutely.
And actually, that takeaway is going to be now rather than
Woo!
like super later.
Well, it was a little later.
It was. It was a couple seconds later. So our takeaway skill today, and again, really the purpose of these skills is we want to give you a tool. We want to give you a tool that you can use that could maybe be helpful for in the now, in the future, something you could share with others that really can kind of empower a resource you have to just really realign to yourself and be that best whole, full, authentic self, or build that for you with whatever state you're at in life. And today's skill is going to be called love breaths. So, yes, we're working with loves. We're also going to be working with a little bit of breathing.
Okay.
Most people that I know of have the capacity to breathe and work a little bit with that word love. So, this should be a receptive skill for the majority of us.
Okay.
So, I'm going to have you first get into a comfortable position, whatever that means or looks like for you. For some people, that may be laying down. For some people, it may be sitting, partially reclining. Your eyes could be open, your eyes could be closed, whatever is best for you. And we're just going to take a few moments to start slowly deepening our breathing. Notice your breath patterns. For me, it always is helpful whenever I kind of like put my hand on my heart or like around my lungs to notice my breath and breathing in and out. Slowly deepening that breath. Just noticing your body relaxing. Maybe noticing a decrease in that sense of tension that you might be carrying. In your next in breath, we're going to kind of try and bring in with that breath all the love that might surround us in the environment we're in. And with that out breath, you're going to send it to all those spaces in your body that might need it right now. Imagining that breath as a loving energy, taking more in and sharing that energy throughout all the spaces and places in your body. inviting that energy in like bursts or rays of light and love entering in your body through breath and lovely sharing it through your bloodstream to your muscles, your bones, your tissues throughout the body. Just noticing that affect on your body. Is your body shifting or changing at all in any way? Is there any movement in your energy, heaviness, lightness, your sense of how you see you? Just notice what you notice. And we're going to take one last big, deep breath of love in from all around us. Wherever we might find it, maybe a tone, maybe a word, maybe a look that someone's gifted us, maybe a snuggle of a pet. Breathing it to all the areas that need it. What's that like for you, Jen? What did you notice?
Hmm. Love's it's a fun word.
Hmm,
It's
that it is.
Yeah.
That is. I know for me, anytime I do any type of breath practice and really intentional
Yeah.
breath practice, there is, I always struggle finding the exact words for us. There's kind of a softness and a lightness that I feel I carry.
Yeah.
I also notice, because I am a very big thinker, I like to
Mhm.
think a lot,
Yep.
that a lot of times stuff comes up. And so I want to give you guys an additional tool because I love you and because you might need this as well. So sometimes when we do some skills practice and work and we're attending to and taking care of ourselves and our body, some things can come up for this.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be thoughts,
Mhm.
emotions, actions that maybe don't really align with that authentic self. Oh, I
Mhm.
shouldn't be doing this.
Mhm.
This is dumb.
Uh-huh.
I'm horrible at this. So, if that comes up in the context of the work that you're doing for you, I'm going to give you a little bit of a skill to practice in letting that go. So, for example, if the word came up like I am I just do not do breath work well. That negative thought space entered into my brain. I'm going to imagine that thought in a little bubble. And I'm going to breathe. Maybe blow that bubble up a bit. Maybe blow it away a bit. And noticing that thought again, I'm going to breathe. Maybe blow that bubble up or out a bit more. And I'm going to continue breathing, noticing and moving that bubble farther away from me until it disappears, pops, or moves out of my existence. That could be a really great tool because then you're intentionally noticing what's coming up, but you're not allowing it to stay with you. And that's
Mm.
a harmful affect.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can come up when we are doing identity work, is we let some of the negative pieces or negatively framed thoughts start to impact ourselves. So this pushes and moves it away a bit.
I love that. It's a wonderful visualization.
Mm.
It reminds me of meditating. There's another very similar one where you're meditating or doing this breath work,
Hmm.
and you're imagining sort of sitting at the edge of a river. And when those thoughts come in, intrusive thoughts, negative thoughts
Hmm.
that are bringing you out of your work, you imagine a leaf floating by on the
Yeah.
river.
It's a mindfulness skill.
Yeah, you just put that thought there and watch it float down the river. Maybe a little more of that. Get out of
Definitely.
here. Definitely.
Some thoughts need a little bit more wind than others.
Oh my goodness. Ah, good. Well, you guys, this kind of brings us to the end of this episode. These go so fast. So, Change by Fire is a 501c3 nonprofit that is committed to helping burn survivors like me and maybe you and their families cope and thrive through the burning and healing process emotionally, socially, mentally, and physically. We provide connection and community via alternative healing modalities, including yoga, scar massage, meditation, hypnotherapy, breath work,
Equine therapy.
equine therapy. We just keep adding,
Well,
there's so many.
there's all sorts of alternative therapy tools out there.
Yes. If you have any that we haven't mentioned, please get a hold of us. Let us know.
For
We're
sure.
happy to add. And, you are more than your scars. And we would love to hear your story and your healing journey as well. Our very first backyard concert fundraiser is coming up very soon on Friday, October 11th, right?
Woohoo, yeah.
Yes. If you are interested in hearing more about that, donating toward the fundraiser, or sharing your own story to help us spread awareness and build funds toward further resources, please reach out to us at www.changedbyfire.org. Thank you for being with us, and join us on our next episode.
And then now we got to do our HEAL, because we always end our episodes with that HEAL acronym.
It's the acronym time. Are you ready, you guys?
I always love these because it's just a fun little mnemonic just to kind of end and encapsulate what we do.
Here we go. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
HEAL. How are you seeing you today? Engage in a thorough assessment of your identity. Allow you to see all aspects of you. And let the true self shine through. The life hurts and hard. Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
You are worth it. All of you. We will see you next time.
Bye, all. Be you.